Hi there, Stampers. It's Linda Schmitt with Stampin' with the Hounds. Today I'm going to be showing you the correct way of making the double diamond or the double gatefold where we had that kind of center diamond. And this is the one where I was supposed to make this card. And I wound up, because I did my triangles wrong, we ended up making this card design. So I'm going to show you today how to actually make this design using your designer series paper. So thanks for joining me today. My mother is here in the stamp room with me. We're all celebrating Mother's Day with me. So for all of you moms out there, I want to say happy Mother's Day. So we are going to get started. So we're still going to be using the Feathered Flight stamp set and the Weathered Wood and the what is this new paper? Country Lace and Country Woods for our designer series paper. So this is the one that I had demoed in my previous video. And what I had done was I was still going down, measuring down 2 3/4 on the side. But when I went to adhere my triangles, notice the right triangle is on the inside, and it should have been going the opposite way, where the right triangle is on the outside edges. So it's the same measurements going down, but it's how you place these triangles gives you a different look when you close the card. So this is the way with the right triangle on the inside, and then if you want this look, you have your right triangles on the outside. So we're gonna start with this one. We're gonna actually do the correct card, hopefully. And this is the one we're gonna be making. So we're using that Feathered Flight, the Country Woods paper, and then I'm also bringing in as well some of the dies. These were a carryover from the holiday catalog, so you can still purchase these online. These are the Forever Forest dies, which have a variety of pine trees, and it's also got that mountain scenery and clouds and rocks. So it's a great die set. So for this card, again, you're going to use that half a sheet of designer series paper. So that is going to be that 5.5 by 12. And you want to pay attention to your patterns depending on when you're cutting it, because like this one, I wanted my stripes going up and down. So when I went to cut it, I cut it this way so that I was having that half a sheet, because we're going to bring this in. That way my stripes were going up and down. So it's still 5.5 by 12. And then we're going to score it 2, 4, 8, and 10. And then on the sides, we're going to measure down 2 3/4 to cut off the top corners to make those triangles. So grab our paper trimmer. Okay, so I'm going to put this on, and since I want this on the outside, I'm actually going to flip it over and I'm going to score on the opposite side, because this is going to be my inside. And again, we're scoring at 2, 4, 8, and 10. So easy scoring on this one. Okay. And then I like to flip it over one more time, just because sometimes I just want to make sure that these score lines are nice and good. So we'll just flip it over one more time. Okay. And then you're going to bring in, it's a little bit easier probably to see on this side. So so here's our first score line, and then here's our second one. So we're going to take that second one, we're going to bring this one in as a valley fold, and then that flap will still come back as a mountain fold. So we're still getting that's our gatefold. We'll do the same thing on this other side. Bring this back. So there's your normal, kind of that double gatefold. So we're going to measure down 2 3/4 and make a mark on each side. So I'm just going to go from over here, and I'm going to do it on this white side so you can kind of see it a little bit better. So I'm just measuring down 2 3/4, and I'm just making a mark, and then we are going to cut from this 2 3/4 mark up to this second score line. So not the first one, you want to cut up to that second score line. So all of this, I'll flip this over, might be a little easier to see the pattern. This is down 2 3/4, and then all of this is going to be cut off, and then it'll be attached down here. Wait, I wanted this to be on. Oh no, did I? Oh, I got my folding wrong, sorry. This is my inside, this is my outside. Okay, 2 3/4, and we're going to cut up to here. So we're going to place the, let me just zoom in here. We're going to put your mark in the cutting groove, and then where that second score line is. So here's the first one. We want that second one. That one has to be in the cutting groove as well. And then our little mark that we just made needs to be in that cutting groove of your paper trimmer. And then that way you're cutting at an angle. So then now this piece will come over and be attached to the inside of the card with that right triangle being on the outside. So we'll just set that aside for now. We're going to do the same thing on the left side. So we're going to measure down 2 3/4. And make a mark. 2 1/2, 2 3/4. And then again, this is going to go, here's our second score line, and then we're going to bring this other tick mark into the cutting groove. And then this has to be in the second score line. And then we're lined up, and that cuts off. Now this triangle turns over and gets adhered to the left side. So we'll go ahead and attach that right now. And then you can go ahead and erase your pencil lines if they're showing, but I think those look good. Okay. So again, this is my inside of the card. So this one comes in, and then the outside flap folds back. And we're going to take, this is the piece that was up here on the top. We're going to flip it over so that we're seeing the other pattern paper. And then the way this is folding now, it's going down, which actually this works pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and put adhesive on the bigger part first and attach it before I do the entire triangle. All right, so keeping our right triangle on the outside edge, we're going to line that up so it's flush to the bottom and alongside the right hand here. So now just all of that is glued down. And then this part, I like to close the card, and then I'll bring this over and glue it down because we're going over this fold. And sometimes you might need to take your bone folder and kind of just manually force it over that fold. so there's half of our triangle. Yay, I didn't mess up. Okay, so again, this was the piece that we had up here. We cut it off. We're going to flip it over, and we're going to take and put adhesive on the larger section first, and then attach that to the left-hand side so that it's flush with the bottom and the side. And then this little piece, I'm just going to turn this over and I'm going to put adhesive on the back. And then we're just going to bring this, fold it in. And you may need to do a little bit of trimming. Looks like I got a little snag there. There we go. All right, so now you've got your center diamond with it. So again, it was just coming down, measuring down 2 3/4, making a mark, and then cutting up to that second score line. And then there is that part. All right, so that is basically the fold. And then for the inside, how I was going to be decorating this is I'm using that, the female mallard duck. And we're going to do a little bit of that mountain air, and then we're just attaching part of that onto the corner. And then I did my deckled rectangle dies again for the inside, and I kind of double layered it. All right, so this I'm doing I have the mossy meadow, and on these it was the largest and second largest size from your deckled rectangle. So these are about 4 by 5 1/4, and then this one gets to be around 3 3/4 by 5. A little bigger, but or I'm sorry, a little bit smaller than those once you die cut them. All right, so we'll go ahead and attach this on the inside. And then this is that new basic beige, which is one of our new colors. So if you can see it up against white, it's a lot different. It's kind of got that. It's lighter than what our old Sahara sand used to be. Oops, looks like I'm out of adhesive. Go to the liquid glue. That gets layered inside. All right, and then for my duck, this one, what do I have her out? Oh, I guess I'll do we'll do the boy one, because that's what I have out. All right, so this one I'm going to be inking up with the gray granite. And then like I showed you before, where you can take and use your Stampin' Right markers, we're going to remove a little bit of the coloring because we're going to color his head and his beak. So I just take a Q-tip and I wipe off some of this excess ink. We're going to do a little bit on his neck. I'm just removing that ink that I put on there. And then we'll take the Stampin' Right marker, and we're going to use, and these you have to use the Stampin' Right markers, not your Stampin' Blends, because the Stampin' Blends does not work for this technique. They actually stain your stamp and they don't transfer onto the paper. So I did a little bit of the, it's a retired color, but this is an Emerald Envy, but you could do like a shaded spruce. And then this I did is pumpkin pie. And then I'm going to do a little bit of blueberry bushel just to add his blue on his feathers. Just do a little bit of the blue. That kind of show. And then I'm going to do pecan pie for his neck. And I'm going to leave that little band that is typically kind of white on him. All right, and then since that ink has been sitting on there, we give it a quick huff, and then we stamp. And then now you've got your multicolored duck. And then I do tend to go back and add his eyeball back in because it kind of fades away. Okay, and then with this stamp set, you do have to fussy cut this one out. There isn't a die for it, so we'll just real quick. And then when I do the fussy cutting, I will make my paper, I'm just going to cut around the image first because I want my paper to be a little bit smaller, and that way it helps with the fussy cutting a little bit. And when you do it, you want to have your left hand, if you're right-handed, your left hand's going to be guiding the paper so that you're not using the scissors so much to turn, it's the paper that's turning. And that way it prevents you getting the little shredded cardstock tears when you're doing these like turns. So just keeping the scissor blade more at an angle, and then just rotating the cardstock as you make your way around the image. And having a smaller blade scissors tends to help when you're doing the fussy cutting too. All right, so there's our little duck all cut out. And then what I did is I took from the the circles then, I used, I think it was like the third largest one. Yeah, I think it's the third largest one. I used that one, and I used one of our new colors. This is Peach Pie, and that's going to be my sun. And then I did do a little bit of sponging just to give that a little bit more dimension. So we're going to take the same color ink, and I'm just gluing these together. So I did two of the, I'll put that one on the bottom. Two of the same size, and I'm just gluing them together just to make it a little bit thicker because only half of this image is glued to the left side of the card. And let's see, can I get these matched up? There we go. Okay, so those are attached. Then what I'm going to do is just take a blending brush and my Peach Pie. So this is that new in color. So these are going to be in the catalog then for 2 years, so 24 through 26. I'm just going to take my blending brush, and I've got my silicone mat, and I like to first just kind of tap off on the silicone mat just to get some of that excess ink off, and then I'm just lightly going around and adding ink on the edges of the circle just to give it a little bit of depth. So then you've got a little bit of shape to it now. So that's all you're going to do on that part. And then we'll just real quick wipe off our silicone mat. I just use a little bit of water just to get that excess ink off. Okay. So then knowing our sun, it's only going to be on there halfway. So I kind of center this and then I hold it. And I take my little pencil just to make a mark here so I know how far over I can go with my adhesive. So all of this can be adhesive then on that left side. bit of tear and tape, just because you want a strong adhesive, just because this is, like I said, only being held on half the image. And then go ahead and remove that pencil mark. So that's going to go right in the center. And then what I'm doing is we will have, I die cut from that mountain air. I just did a bunch of my die cutting. I did some clouds, I did some trees. So we're gonna do, so I did some trees in the mossy meadow, and I did others in old olive. Just trying to find my other smaller tree. Let's see. Oh, here it is. So do 2 of those. And then we got our rocks. And these were done in the basic beige, and then I did smoky slate. So I got some of my rocks. And then I also die cut from that set the clouds. And those are in basic beige as well. One. And then I need another tree for there. Okay, so then these. And on my rocks, I'm also going to give these a little bit more color. Because if you notice on the front, I just added, these are going to be sponged as well. So I'm going to be doing that gray granite on these too. And I'm using a smaller little blending brush. You could also use your little sponge stopper too. But again, on these, for my rocks, I'm just going to tap off, and then I'm just going to brush. Basically, I'm just kind of doing the tops of the rocks. Just around those edges. I think I had some of these decorated inside too, so let's see here. We'll grab a couple more rocks for the inside. And this is optional, you don't have to do this. I just thought it gave it a little bit more texture to the card. Okay, so that's all done. And then we'll clean up our ink. All right, and then these are going to be glued. Get these out of the way. So we're going to glue our clouds. And since this is a, I can go off of the sun a little bit because all of this is glued down to this left side of the card. So we'll do one there, and then I'm going to glue my tallest tree because that's going to overlap a little bit. So we'll go ahead and put glue on these. Yeah, and on these really delicate dies, you do need to use like a liquid glue if you don't do a sticker sheet when you die cut. These are pretty thin. Yeah, and I'll put a link to my other video, because on this one with this double gatefold, I had showed you 4 different ways on how to do the double gatefold. So you want to make sure you check out those other ones where I showed you the various cutting with the designer series paper on how to do those. All right, and then we're going to do a smaller rock. other tree is in the old olive. This Mountain Air die is like one of my favorite die sets. And then on this rock, I'm going to pop this one up with a dimensional. And then we'll do another tree on the opposite side. And then another rock. And then our duck, we're going to go ahead and pop him up as well. I'm kind of doing a combination of the regular dimensionals and then the mini ones. And since all of this is, I've got room for him to be, except for, I probably should take this one off because that does overhang. So yeah, so you just want to make sure whatever you're putting on here, that it doesn't stick to the back of this card, otherwise the card won't open. So as long as we'll just tuck this little dimensional in there a little bit. And then I had this little piece kind of overhanging, so I'm just going to trim that with my scissors, our little triangle. And we'll trim this one off just a little bit. There we go. All right, so that is the outside with our center, and then we'll just go ahead and put in another little pine tree on the inside of the card, since we have these already die cut and inked up, so we'll do that. Little tree here. And then you can, depending on what, if your sentiment will fit in here, you can go ahead and put a sentiment there. But on this one, I think I was going to... I don't know if this one will fit in there or not. Oops, let's see. Oh, here it is. Yeah, maybe those won't fit, so I may just leave it. So that is the correct way to make this double gatefold that had that little diamond in the center. So the other one that I wanted to show you really quick was the other style that instead of doing this wider border, you do the narrower border like this one. See the difference? So we're going to do this one as well. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So on this one, same thing. We are doing that 5.5 by 12. Get some of these trees out of here. And instead of going down 2 3/4, we're now going to measure down 4 inches on the side. So the paper is still that 5.5 by 12, and we're still going to score at 2, 4, 8, and 10. And I want the wood planks on my outside, so I'm going to score on the back side here. So again, we're going to score at 2, 4, 8, and 10. And then we will make a mark. I think I'm going to have to do it on this side so you can see. We're going to go down 4 inches on the right side of the paper. And we're going to make a mark. And then we will take and cut. I just have to see my score lines. Nope, I did that wrong, sorry. I do need to mark on this, on the dark side, because otherwise my fold is going to be cut wrong. Because we have this paper, the dark brown is going to be on the inside, so we do have to mark on this side so you can see. So this is going to have to be on the 4. So we'll still measure down to 4 inches, and then we cut from this 4-inch mark up to that second score line. And you're just putting those marks in the cutting groove of your paper trimmer. Alright, now on this one, so now on the other one, remember we just kind of flipped it going this way. This one now, you're going to take, and this then comes over to the opposite side of the card. We do it because we have to have that right triangle being still on the inside, but you're taking this, flipping it, and bringing it over to the opposite side of the card. All right, so we'll do the same thing on this one. We're going to, on the left side, we're going to score down, or not score down, we're going to measure down 4 inches and make a mark. And then again, we're going to be cutting from this line up to that second score line, because those are our gatefolds that are coming in. So we're cutting from that 4-inch up to this score line. I just need to be able to see my tick mark. There it is. Alright, so now these were our, sorry. So we had it going this way. We're going to go ahead and score on these just so that they are in the shape that we need it to be. So again, this was your, basically your main gatefold that brings in for your card. That comes in as a valley, and then this one comes back as a mountain fold. And then I always just make sure that my edges are lined up to the side of my card, so sometimes you may have to just take your bone folder and kind of force it into place a little bit better. And then again, this one comes in as a valley, and then this one came back as a mountain, and then I just make sure my edges are lined up on the bottom, and then I just force this into place. Okay, so that's our inside. Okay, so make sure that this is cut at 5.5. All right, so these pieces that came off, this now, again, wouldn't fit here because it's the wrong side. So we need to bring this one over so that the right triangle is now on the inside of the card, and we're going to put it right up against that score line. So again, on this one, because this part here is a mountain fold, you need to take this triangle and bring this one in as a mountain fold too, because it has to go over that fold. So like we did on the other one, you want to put glue on the bigger portion of the triangle first. And then you're putting this so that it's not on top of that score line on the inside of the card, because you have to be, it has to be able to close. So just kind of give it a spot check just to make sure that you can open and close it without it being in the way. And then we'll just make sure all of that's glued down. And then again, because you've got two pieces of paper folding over each other, so this one, sometimes you do have to force it over a little bit just to get over that fold. So now we can go ahead and put glue on this flap. Is your right side. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So again, that's triangle. We have to flip this over, and then where our fold was, because this is a mountain fold, this part of the triangle needs to be a mountain fold as well. So we'll just make sure you fold on that, and then that's just going to layer right on top like so. So we want to put adhesive on the bigger part first. And then this is going to be attached to the inside. You want to kind of butt up right against that score line, but not be on top of it. And then make sure you're flush at the bottom. And before you really press down hard, just make sure that this folds over and closes. And then once it's in place, whoops, and give it a good rub down. And then I like to close it, and then before I put the glue down, I make sure this is folding over properly, and then I'll put glue on the smaller part of the flap, and then that's going to come over. Now you have your zigzag gatefold with that one. So again, on here, what I'm doing is I just have my focal point with my two little mallards. So we're going to do that on the deckled circles again. And then my inside, I'm using the basic beige paper, which looks like my cardstock blade was, or my paper trimmer blade. It needs to be replaced. I just take a nail file. Just give it that rustic look. Okay, and this was this is 4 by 5 1/4, which is going to go right on the inside of the card. But before I put that in, I'm going to do my ducks that fly across, and I'm just going to ink these up in gray granite, and they're just going to be flying across the top part here. Give it my rustic look by just using my fingernail to rough up the edges of the cardstock. Okay, go ahead and put this on the inside. Oh, this one wasn't. I did it again, Mom. I didn't trim this paper. Oh, I was making a card and before I started the video, and my paper wasn't the right size, and I glued it in there, and oh my goodness. I'm going to do some freehanding. Okay. So, I got glue all over that. I trimmed it. This really needs to be 3 3/4 by 5, I believe, on the inside on this one. Yes. Yep. So this cardstock for the inside needs to be 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. It's just a little bit narrower than the other one, because the other one was 4 by 5 1/4 for the inside, but this one does need to be 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. All right. Always something with the videos. All right, we're going to take our ducks, same thing, and we'll ink it up in that gray granite. Then I'm just going to take my handy dandy Q-tip, and I'm just going to remove the green, the color off of his head and her bill, and also on this one I'm going to take off the water because I want to go back with my marker on that. So we're going to do again that same green. I did a little crushed curry on his bill, and on her bill I'm going to do pumpkin pie. And then on his neck area, I'm going to do a little bit of pecan pie. So I'm going to take off some of this gray granite so it's not so dark. And then I'm going to just on the edges do a little bit of pecan pie on the female and kind of on the bottom here. And then for the water, we'll do a little bit of the Misty Moonlight. And again, these are those Stampin' Right markers that you want to use for this technique. And then I'm going to do a little bit of blueberry bushel on those, the little blue on their feathers. And then because this ink has been sitting here, you want to give it a quick huff. And then we'll stamp on the white. And again, I'm using those layering deckled circles. Perfect. And then again, I like to go back in with that finer tip and just add his eyeball back in. So there's that. And we'll adhere this onto the next size up. And this was Misty Moonlight cardstock that I'm adhering it to. And then same thing on this one, we want to make sure we're only putting adhesive on this part of the flap. So here, this one, you're going to be coming down farther, so you want to make sure you're not putting anything there, because otherwise the card won't open. So this, we only need to have just this little section here, almost like a pie. A slice of a pie is all that you need. And I always just give it a spot check just to make sure my glue over a little bit there. So we'll just take our adhesive remover and just remove some of that excess adhesive. You can also just attach this on with a dimensional too. That would be an easy way of doing that too. So now I've got all these trees die cuts. I'm just going to add a couple of more trees on the front just to give this a little pop of color. And let's see here. I think those are my 2 trees I want. And then on this one, I'm thinking if I have another one that size, well, maybe we'll just put this on behind it. I'm just going to double it up just to give it a little bit of dimension. So we'll just put this on the bottom. Instead of doing, I had some of these little leftover rock gems. We'll just put some of these on just to add a little bit of texture. in the stamp set, I am going to be used, so this is the I'm Glad You're in My Life. We're going to go ahead and put that one in the inside here. Looks like a little something on here. This is that little, my handy dandy little sand eraser. Never leave home without it. It's a good way of removing some of your ink marks that you do. And I think on this one I am going to do the Misty Moonlight ink. So we'll do a little bit of Misty Moonlight. And then you want to make sure that when you go to stamp, that this isn't showing when the card is closed. So there is the correct way to do the zigzag gatefold, 2 different ways, using your designer series paper, and depending on if you're measuring down 4 inches or if you're measuring down the 2 3/4, but then that way you've got these other kind of fun gatefold cards. So stay tuned. My next series, I'm still going to be working on variations of the gatefolds. We are going to be doing, it is another kind of pop-out one. And this one, we will be using the Simply Xenia set. So this is another one where it's a gatefold, and now it pops up and it kind of looks like, almost like a bird from the side. But yeah, so that's another one where it's a good display card that stands up. And it's another one that it has that pop-up, but when you fold it, everything's flat. It's a flat card, so no extra postage. So that'll be my next one in my Gatefold series. So thanks again for watching and for your support. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And then I will, again, like I said, I'll put the links to my other previous Gatefold tutorials that I did. And have a great and creative day. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.